remember how long ago it was now, but I started a series on this channel called The Writing Diaries, where I was going to be documenting my writing, and I have just been in a complete slump and I have not made any more videos within that series, and I'm just really fed up with myself at the minute. And the last couple of days I've had a ton of motivation to write, but then I'll set my laptop up and just stare at my Word documents, because although the motivation is there to write, my mind just goes blank. And I don't know if it's because I have so many different ideas and so many different projects that I've started. I'm finding it hard to pick one to focus on to finish. And last night I had a plan that today I was going to just spend the entire day writing, but it is now 1:30 and I haven't written a word. So I thought that maybe if I tried to bring back the writing diaries, it would be my motivation. So I'm trying to single down on the projects to not be so overwhelmed. So still working on Elemental Rain. If you haven't watched any of my videos on my channel or anything, my best friend and I are working on a fantasy trilogy. We're still working on book 1. We did set a deadline for June at the start of this year. It's now coming up towards the end of February, and I feel like we're not going to hit that because we've both just kind of lost the motivation for it. Last night we did come up with the idea that we were going to have conversations with each other, but as the characters that we're writing, to see if that would motivate us or spark any ideas. And we thought it might be a good way if we got a bit that we've written and there might be a bit of a plot hole, to try and instead of figuring out the plot hole as the writer, to try and figure out the plot hole as the character and find out the different scenarios that we think the characters would do as themselves, if that makes sense. And that has given me a little bit of motivation, but I think it's really hard to focus on that project right now because we are so close to finishing the first draft. However, there is one chapter at the end, and because we do the majority of our writing separate, we have 2 character chapters towards the very end of the book which are following the same event, and we both wrote them separately but they don't match and make sense, and we just don't have the time to meet up regularly to sit and write in person. And we've both been really busy and we both had a lot going on, that that project has just been kind of pushed to the side. And then we've also come up with a second project that we want to write together, and we want to finish Elemental Rain first, but at the minute I'm more motivated and excited for the second project, but I don't want to start it because then it's just going to be another work in progress. So I thought in the meantime I'm gonna work on one of my projects, but I just have so many, I don't know where to start. I have many questions, and last night I was thinking I might go back to my first original idea, the first story that I ever started putting together, which is a young adult paranormal story. And I looked last night and I'm just under 10,000 words, so there is quite a bit of that started. I've just drifted away from young adult because I've not been reading young adult books, that I was finding it hard to find the motivation to do that. But that is my project that has the most done, in a sense. I've just been in a slump, so I thought I've had enough. I was gonna have my writing day today. I've missed half the day already, so I'm gonna try and have a writing afternoon and then try and have a full day tomorrow to see what progress I can make. So I have my laptop here, I have a notebook. It's pouring with rain, so I feel like it's a nice writing aesthetic to just listen to the rain whilst I try and write one of these paranormal or fantasy projects that I have going on. So we're gonna see if I can pick it back up today. It's been about 20 minutes of me staring at my screen and all of my different projects, and the young adult one, I don't feel that I want to work on that right now. So I picked up another one that I have that is a new adult paranormal romance, and I have 7,000 words down on that one, so there is quite a bit done already. And with this particular project I have already pretty much planned out every single chapter, what's going to happen. So I feel like this is an easier one to try and get into because I have that plan, whereas none of my other projects I have these plans as detailed for. And the thing that's been putting me off writing this one is Initially, this project was inspired by a TV show I watched. Now, the setting of this, the characters of this are all places and people that I have created myself. So the things that happen in this story that I have planned, I think maybe like 1 or 2 things might have happened in the show, but it's very loose. Like in the show there was a party, and in this there's a party, but the things that happen at the party aren't the same things. So it's very, very loosely inspired. The very first bit of this that I wrote was the prologue, and that was pretty much the same as what happened in the show, just so that I could get the idea down. But I have since rewritten that, and it is now completely different. So I feel that like if you'd watched the show and knew that this was based off it, you could probably see the points that had inspired it. But if you didn't know, like you wouldn't know. I'm just really worried that people are gonna like read this and think that I have copied the idea, when I know I haven't. And I know loads of authors are inspired by other books they've read and shows they've watched and movies they've seen, and like it's not copying. The characters aren't the same, the setting's not the same. It's just 1 or 2 points that are going to be loosely based off this show, and that worry has stopped me from writing this. And I really like these characters, so I think I'm going to make the point of focusing on this one today. I have a separate Word document which has a table with the contents plan, so what all my chapters are going to be, and then in my actual Word document that I'm working on for the story, I have all of the synopsises for each chapter put in. So I think I'm going to go through and try and work on some of the chapters that just have the synopsis and no actual story in them yet. And yeah, it's 5:22 now, and I am gonna see how many words I can get done, and then I'm gonna try and write until 3 o'clock. I'm not gonna pick up my phone, I'm not gonna get distracted, and see how much I can work in an hour on this one project. I didn't get to write for the whole hour because my partner came home from work like halfway through, so I did have a bit of a pause to chat to him about his day. But my starting word count was 6,094 words, and then by the end the total was 6,758, so I wrote 664 words, and I was hoping for 1,000, but considering I was just gonna write today off completely, that's 664 more words than I would have done if I hadn't forced myself to sit for that hour. So I didn't write any particular chapter. I was just going through and reading through some of the bits that I'd already written and just adding in some conversation starters and some points in there. And then I have this old bullet journal, and I've started to use it as like a writing journal just for all of my writing projects, my writing goals, word counts and things like that. And basically, whilst going through this, I have found some questions and some potential plot holes that I didn't think I initially had, which is gonna make the motivation for writing this so much harder. But I've noted them down in here, and the issue I have is the male main character does something, and I don't actually know if it's forgivable. And like the explanation behind why he did what he did, I think you can understand why he did what he did, and as a reader you would get why he did what he did. But I feel like also as a reader, it's like, would you really forgive him if that was you? And of course I want her to forgive him so that the story comes full circle, but at the same time I feel like I have put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that this is a really believable relationship, and that the reader is going to be really, really invested in these characters to want her to forgive him over this, and that even though what he did may not necessarily be forgivable, I'm going with the idea that she won't forget and won't forgive, but she can learn to live with it, if that makes sense. I don't want to like give away this whole like plot point, but now I'm like second guessing myself as to whether he really can be forgiven, but like I can't take this plot point out of the story because it's like the main undertone throughout the book, and if I take this out then I have no book. So I'm left with more questions than what I had when I first started, but that's a good thing. The more questions I have, the more I'm going to be looking into this world and the more things may develop. So I'm taking it as a positive. And then I also posted a TikTok. I made it a while ago, but I've been really nervous to post it, about whether people think that books need spice in them to be good or not, because this project in particular, I haven't planned for there to be any spice in them, but another one that I'm writing, you know how many I have, another one doesn't have in it because I don't feel like comfortable writing that. But because the male main character in it is kind of like a billionaire, it's one of those romances, I feel that it needs it in, but I don't know if I feel comfortable enough to write it. So I put a TikTok up asking for people's opinions, and I've actually got like quite a few responses in a short amount of time. So we're gonna see how that goes, and maybe I don't feel that this book needs spice, but I feel like it might encourage more people to read it if there was. So I might give that a go, but I think honestly I'm just gonna write the book without the spice and then try and incorporate spice into the other project that I was originally thinking of, and eventually maybe see if this book does need it. But now there's just more questions coming out and more questions that I'm asking, but I'm making progress. Questions are progress. Another hour has passed and I've just done like a little bit more journaling in my writing journal. I've wrote up a page about the TikTok I posted about what the spice is needed, just with like some of my thoughts and some opinions that I got from people. So I think this is going to be like a really handy tool, and I definitely want to start using this a little bit more. So I'm probably just going to end it here because it's really long already, but it has motivated me to try and make some more content around writing. So let me know if you would like to see more videos in this Writing Diaries series, but if you made it to the end, then thank you. I didn't expect to film this today, so this is an unexpected ramble kind of a vlog, but I'm glad it motivated me. I got something done today, and I think I've hit and found a stride now with my writing, and I think I've kind of sorted out the projects that I really want to focus on. Some good's come out of it today.